Headingley, the home of Yorkshire County Cricket Club, a great and historic test ground. Played test cricket here since the late 19th century for over 120 years. It's right at the heart of the community. You can see rows of terrace houses over my left shoulder, so it's about a mile or two from the city centre. Headingley, a residential area, very studenty area these days. The ground has changed a lot, actually. When I first played here, we used to change over there, but that's where the corporate boxes are now. The players now change over at the Kirkstall Lane end, but you wouldn't say it's a pretty ground, but it kind of has some magical qualities because there's always a bit in it for the bowlers. When the clouds roll in, you know, it produces some wonderful cricket. Some of the greatest test matches that have ever been seen have been played here, like the Ben Stokes Ashes match in 2019 and the famous Beefy and Bob game in 1981. We're in the posh bit of the ground here, the Emerald Suite. If you're having lunch in here on a match day, it's quite expensive because you get a view over both sides of the ground. You've got the cricket pitch there to my right, the home of Yorkshire County Cricket Club, and over this side you've got the Rugby League pitch, which is the home of the Leeds Rhinos. And of course this summer Liam Livingstone became the only man to hit the ball over this enormous stand from one side to the other.
Oh my goodness! Where has that ended up? That's massive. Tanga, it's gone over the stand. That's on the rugby pitch. No. Yes. Oh, I don't think I've ever seen a six bigger than that.
Entrance to the Yorkshire Cricket Museum. Of course, this historic club has produced some of the greatest cricketers this country has known. Many of them are commemorated in here. Let's go and have a look. So this area is dedicated to Hedley Verity. They've got his England blazer here from the South Africa tour of 1938, which is the last tour before the Second World War broke out. His Yorkshire cap, scoreboard of a match against Nottinghamshire, famous game where he took 10 for 10, which is still the best first-class analysis of all time, and a picture of his gravestone there in Italy. He died in Italy after sustaining wounds in Sicily. So this commemorates Len Hutton's, at the time, world record score of 364, made at the Oval in 1938 against Australia. And there's a wagon wheel of his innings down here. Memo to all batsmen, he scored all round the wicket. Some of the greats here: Rhodes, Boycott, Hutton, Sutcliffe and Truman. And I like this quote from J.N. Kilburn, who was a Yorkshire Post journalist. "Greatness was in him and it was not obscured." So we're in a small garden here at Headingley to commemorate the Yorkshire players who were killed in action or died of wounds in the war. So 5 of them here: Lieutenant Milligan, Lieutenant Booth, Gunner Gill, Private Rothery and Captain Verity. 2 of them England cricketers. Major Booth, very interesting story. He played for England on the eve of the First World War in South Africa, Yorkshire and England all-rounder. He went over the top at the Somme on the first morning and got hit badly, shrapnel wounds, and fell into a shell hole. He was part of the Leeds Pals, and following on behind him as part of the Bradford Pals was another Yorkshire cricketer called Abe Waddington. And Waddington got injured, fell into the same shell hole, and tragically Major Booth died in Abe Waddington's arms. When the war finished, it was Waddington who took Booth's place in the Yorkshire Championship winning side just after the war. So a very tragic tale. And Hedley Verity, of course, one of England's greatest ever cricketers, a great left arm spin bowler. He got wounded in Sicily, died of his wounds in Italy, and when Len Hutton took the England side down to Australia in 54-5, the players stopped off and paid their respects at Hedley Verity's graveside before they went on to Australia and came back with the Ashes. Well, the stairs up to the long room, a gallery of greats really. On my left, Fred Truman, Geoffrey Boycott playing a forward defensive inevitably. the great Yorkshire and England captain, Len Hutton, Ashes winning captain at home and abroad. Fred Truman just finishing his bowling action. A very famous portrait of Wilfred Rhodes, who scored almost 40,000 first-class runs and took more than 4,000 first-class wickets. Incredible record, really. Lord Hawke, who ran this place like his personal fiefdom, and a portrait of Len Hutton in his playing days, a portrait that actually sits at Lord's as well, in the long room usually. Top of the stairs to the long room. The final painting is by Jack Russell, and I think the club commissioned it to celebrate the opening of the new stand which abuts the rugby ground. So Jack's painting gets pride of place. Into the long room at Headingley, and like most test grounds these days, there are honours boards here commemorating the great batting and bowling performances of the past. We're at the batting honours board here. Famous innings, Don Bradman, 2 triple hundreds for Bradman, 1930 and 34. Down here, Jeff Boycott, 191 in 1977. That was his 100th 100 on his home ground, 100th first class 100. Graham Gooch, a memorable 154 against the West Indies in 1991, which is considered one of the greatest test innings. Kevin Peterson, 149 in a very controversial game against South Africa in 2012. And of course, Ben Stokes, 2019, 135, one of the greatest innings in English test history. And then the bowlers, Jim Laker, 11 wickets in 1956, 11 in the match, same year that he took 19 in the match at Old Trafford. Freddie Truman on his home ground, 5 for 58 against Australia, 1961. The famous game in 81, where Beefy took 6 for in the first innings and then Bobby 8 for 43 in the second innings, that amazing match. I played in this game when Andy Caddick took 5 for 14, when we tumbled the West Indies out quickly and won a test match in 2 days. And as is usual, most of the recent performances, Jimmy Anderson, 10 for in the match against Sri Lanka in 2016. Graham Swann as well, and actually not that many of late spinners to have done really well here at Headingley, but Graham Swann took 10 for in the match against New Zealand in 2013. Out on the middle at the football stand end, walking up the slope. One of the quirks of this ground at Headingley is that there's quite a big slope running north-south. It's produced some fantastic moments down the years. As a young boy, the first one I remember is Geoffrey Boycott's 100th first-class 100, which came against Australia on a memorable day for him. It's the 40th anniversary, of course, of the great Ashes match, where Beefy starred with 149 and Bobby came steaming down the hill from the Kirkstall Lane end to take 8 for 43. In 1991, Graham Gooch played one of the greatest innings that an England opener has ever played, 154 against West Indies on a pretty spiteful pitch. It's the 20th anniversary of Mark Butcher's fantastic 4th innings performance against Australia, 173 from memory in a game that England won. And of course in 2019, Ben Stokes, what a performance that was in the Ashes match, cutting that ball away for 4 to that side, and the crowd behind me in the Old Western Terrace went absolutely ballistic. This is a special place that has produced some very special memories.